Welcome to the first vid on the Malad's Fit channel. Today we're covering Gym Nutrition 101. What should your macros look like? I'm just starting to get into the gym and exercising. What should I do? This is going to be a general guide, a nice blueprint, if you will, to follow. So let's lock in. Because, this webcam does make me look pretty reasonable for the credibility standpoint. I won't lie. W webcam. But yeah, let's get into it. So, starting off with your macros, Malad, how much protein should I eat? How many carbs should I eat? How much fat? Generally speaking, what you should be having is now I live in the US, so we use pounds. I know majority of the world uses kilograms, so I'll try to convert to that. But generally for your protein, 0.8 to 1 gram per pound of body weight. I believe this is 1.6 to 2.2 uh, grams per kilogram. But fact check that. Here, let me move this. Oh, not that. Per kilogram. Now, for your fats, 0.3 grams to 0.5 per pound of body weight, and then the rest carbs. Now, my fat range is probably around like 0.4. I don't think you don't, especially as a beginner, you don't need to count calories. I don't count, believe it or not, I don't count calories. I just make sure I get like enough protein in, and then I already know through my meals that I get enough fat in, mostly through my eggs, and the rest of I just eat like a bunch of carbs until I think like it's enough to fuel my workouts. I believe in like using relativity because I think, especially as a beginner, tracking macros and calories for every single thing is like so OD. You don't need to do that unless you're trying to get stage lean sub 10%. I mean, I'm trying to like cut down like relatively lean from like 10%. So like cutting macro, like counting macro is a little more important for me, but I still don't think it's necessary. Usually I think in relativity. So I always eat, whether I'm cutting or bulking, I don't really bulk. Whenever I'm just like trying to lose weight, I just eat the same foods as always. I just do a little more cardio. That's basically it. Because from a nutritional standpoint, the better quality nutrients you get, the better you're going to feel and the harder you're going to be able to train. So I think that your diet should just be, you should not just eat chicken and rice all day. I'll go into this later. But yeah, 0.8 gram protein per pound, roughly the ballpark, 0.3 to 0.5, and then the rest is carbs. Carbs are super important for our muscle performance. Carbs are either glucose or fructose. This is too complicated. I don't even need to know this. But basically, carbs fuel your muscles. The more carbs you have, the more full your muscles are going to be, the harder you can work. That's basically it. If you're just starting out, you don't really need. Don't go for the 1 gram or the 2.2. That's kind of OD for you, especially as a beginner. You're prone really easily to like muscle protein synthesis. You're really sensitive. Now, muscle protein synthesis, or MPS is what I'm going to call it, is basically just your body repairing muscle tissue. So whenever you start exercising hard, MPS is going to increase. And this lasts like roughly 24 to 48 hours. Holy crap, that's terrible. Before it starts tapering off. Now, to quickly go over a few terms you might hear a lot when it comes to lifting and exercising is intensity, frequency, and volume. All right. Intensity is how hard you train. Frequency obviously is how often. Once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week. And volume is how many sets you're doing. So the total amount of exercise you're doing a week. Now, for beginners, especially when you're first starting out, what I'd recommend doing is you want intensity to be really high, you want a frequency to also be high, and you don't want volume to be too high. And here's the reason for this. As a beginner, when you go through newbie gains, what that really is just your body learning how to map itself properly and actually learn how to use your muscles. So, newbie gains is actually your body learning how to use your body for that exercise. When you do a push up the first few times, you're going to suck at it because your body is not used to using those muscles in that motion, right? It has to, like any kind of sport, whenever you play soccer, get better at it. Learning an exercise is the same thing, where your body has to get used to doing push ups. So, newbie gains isn't actually you building muscle for the most part. It's your brain building those neurological connections or neuromuscular connections, or learning how to use its neurons properly with its muscles to actually make them like work how they should. Okay. So what you want to do as a beginner is, I think the easiest thing to do, especially if you're working out from home and you don't have access to a gym, is full body 3 times a week frequency. So or forget just 3 times a week. So every other day, basically just rest and low volume. So I would do per muscle group 1 to 2 sets, like super high intensity. So intense, like when people say high intensity, they basically just mean near slash at failure. And another keyword is reps in reserve, or RIR. That just means how many more reps you think you could do. So if you're like doing like a push up and like you're like super struggling and you can't do any more, but you finish that one, that would be 0 reps in reserve. If you're trying to do it and then you fall, that's failure. And then if like you finish it, but you think you could do one more, that's one. Typically, generally speaking, for both like beginners and people, you don't want to be training straight to failure. You want to be going 0 reps in reserve to one. This is probably ideal for managing fatigue properly. Let me move this. That's better. So full body 3 times a week. The reason why you want to do low volume and high intensity is because, especially as a beginner, I'm sure when you've done anything for the first time, any kind of exercise that you're not used to, you get hella sore the next day. Like if you hit legs, for example, like you do a ton of squats and you're not used to doing them, you are sore for a week. The problem with being super sore is just because you're sore, that doesn't mean that MPS is still on. This still, whether you're sore or not, this still shuts off after that 1 to 2 day range. So if you do a lower body workout by doing so much volume that you're not used to, and you're so sore where you just can't train the next day or like the next time you have to hit that muscle group, that is actually slowing down your muscle growth, because you aren't going to be able to train properly at all. You aren't going to be able to output as much strength as you need to. So you want to stick with, especially as a beginner, because your body's not used to these and you'll get sore. You don't want to be super sore for volume, because again, frequency is really important for a beginner. Now, the other reason why I wouldn't do a ton of volume as a beginner is because you're not used to this and you're going to think it sucks. So it's a mood thing, right? If I'm exercising for the first time and I am miserable during it, I'm not going to want to do, for the most people, 99% of people, you're not going to want to do it anymore. You're going to stop because, like, oh, this sucks, bro. I'm so sore the next day. I don't feel like working out. So doing lower volume and doing more things you could recover from helps you stay more consistent. Because again, the gym isn't going to do, the gym is, and exercising in general and fitness is a consistency game. Consistency above all. You're not going to get especially as a beginner, you can get noticeable progress in 6 months to like a year, but you're not gonna get your dream physique that fast. It will take you 1, 3, 5 years. I've been training for like 5 years, and I still don't like with a t-shirt. And I don't look like I exercise like from like a side profile. Well, okay, wait, where's the camera? Or whatever, bro. Like like my arms, like you can't really tell that I exercise. Or maybe it's just body dysmorphia. I don't know. But like to be fair, I wasted 3 years because I didn't manage fatigue properly. Fatigue management is super important. I literally plateaued, which means you don't progress on any movements for 3 years. That is not normal. If that is happening to you for like weeks and weeks, you're not lifting weight, something needs to change. Me, I am so stubborn when it comes to discipline where if I no matter how I felt, I never took it easy because I felt lazy. I thought I was being lazy, right? I hate losing. I don't want to get outworked by anyone. So for literal years, I made no progress because I kept on killing myself, going to an hour and a half soccer practice, going back home, not eating enough, and then hitting like an hour and a half lift. It's not good. All right. Fatigue, you don't want to be taking the fatigue pill. Fatigue management is the most important thing. All of this is to help manage fatigue because fatigue is what's going to kill your gains. Like, literal. If I knew what I knew now, I would actually be way more aesthetic. I've made more progress in the past 6 months than I have in the past 4 years combined, honestly. Like, it's that crazy. Now, adding more on fatigue, there's two kinds, okay? CNS and peripheral. You can't see it. Peripheral. CNS fatigue stands for central. At least, whoa! Is that look how tiny that is? You can't even see that. Whoa! All right, whatever. Central nervous system fatigue or central nervous system, and then peripheral. It's just peripheral. CNS fatigue is your brain, has to do with your brain and your neurons. Peripheral is the things that build up in the muscle itself. Peripheral fatigue is that burning sensation that you feel as like a byproduct of lifting. It's when that muscle itself feels exhausted and tired. CNS fatigue is when your nervous system is tired. So, as a general rule of thumb, and logically this makes sense, the more complicated a movement you do that requires multiple different muscle groups, these are your compound, they're called compound lifts, the more CNS fatigue it's going to require. So think squats. I mean, lunges are called squats, lunges, different kind of lifts like that. Lifts where compound lifts are lifts that use multiple muscle groups together. Now, as you can imagine, that puts more of a tax on your brain, coordinating the neurons between all the different muscles than just using one. So, doing a bunch of squats is going to make your brain more tired than doing a bicep curl. Okay? I think that makes sense. The tricky thing about CNS fatigue, which is what made me plateau for 3 years, because I was so stubborn, is even if you don't have peripheral fatigue in that region, if you have this, you're not going to be able to lift as heavy. What do I mean by this? Let's say you just go do like some hard squats that's till failure, right? You do 5 reps, max intensity. You can't do another one of hard, heavy squats. You're cooked. And then a minute right afterwards, or a minute or two later, you go and try to do bicep curls. Your biceps feel fine. It's not like you're doing squats with your biceps. So wouldn't that be fine? Hell no. That is not optimal. And here's why. Although there's no peripheral fatigue in your biceps, those squats you just did accumulated CNS fatigue. Your brain is still tired from the squats that it's not able to send as many motor units, or the neurons that move the muscle, to lift up your biceps. So in layman's terms, you can't lift as heavy. Despite your bicep being fine, your brain is too tired to send the strength necessary to go as hard as you can. And because you're not reaching failure, or because you're not, I should have talked about this earlier. I'll talk about it right after this. Because you're not able to exert as much strength as you can, your muscle protein synthesis, or your mechanical tension, I'll get to that in a second, is not going to be as high. I should have started this. The main driver of hypertrophy, like, people attribute this to muscle growth, right, is mechanical tension. This is the number one most important factor. This is basically just the amount of force you exert. When people say you want to maximize mechanical tension, it's in simple terms, it's the force you exert in that direction. It's how heavy you're lifting. So that's basically the main thing. This is why people say, I mean, there's a lot of nuance between this, but you don't really need to know that. Basically, 6 to 10 reps is a good range. If your goal is to build muscle, I don't know why the Google Home just went off. I said muscle. This is a good range for you. 6 to 10 reps, it's good. Any more than this, and you're accumulating too much fatigue. So the way that motor unit recruitment works is, I mean, this is kind of too complicated for like a 101. I'll do another video on this if you guys want to, if anyone actually watches this video. But yeah, for beginners, main thing is rest. I would rest 3 minutes a set. That's good. 3 minutes a set, because it gives your brain time to replenish itself and chill out. So by the next set, you're ready to exert as many neurons and force as possible. Peripheral fatigue is just that fatigue in the muscle itself, how that muscle itself feels, how tired it is. 0.8 to 1 gram protein per body weight. I would lean more towards this. There's not really any benefit to going higher. Instead, I would do lower protein, more carbs, because again, carbs fuel your workout. Lower fats. And yeah, as a beginner, I would do full body 3 times a week. So, for example, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then rest Saturday, Sunday, and go back to it, right? Because this way you're hitting frequency twice a week for each muscle group. That's the most important thing. The most important thing with your split, and really the only thing that matters for the most part, is that you're hitting each muscle group twice a week. And that, again, is because you're trying to maximize how often this is on, right? To build more muscle. You want to get near failure. I wouldn't bring everything to failure, because at that point you're generating more of this fatigue. The cost benefit ratio is just not good. You're generating too much fatigue for too little diminishing returns, basically. So like I would say 0 to 1 rep range in reserve. And yeah, that's like gym nutrition fundamentals 101. If this was useful for any of you, and if you have any other questions, let me know. I'll do more videos. And since I don't really know where this channel is going to go, I wanted this to be like this channel to be informative, but also showcase things I like to do in more my personality and my beliefs when it comes to things like this and overall outlook on life. So I might do just like some videos of me gaming and talking about like philosophy, what got me started into lifting. That's my dog. If you heard that, you probably didn't. But yeah, let me know. Uh, if you guys have any videos you want me to cover, comment, please, and I'll do them. Yeah, man. The goal is I want this to work out, dude. You know how awesome that would be. Gaming, fitness, anime stuff, the holy trinity of like my life. Then if I could do that for a living, I would be so blessed. But yeah, let me know if you guys this was useful, and if you want me to go more in depth on like CNS fatigue, motor unit recruitment, and how that relates to this. Again, you want to, especially as a beginner, try to get as close to failure as possible, but you don't want to overtrain. So 1 to 2 sets is good. But yeah, let me know what you want. Oh, quick add on. So volume is like 10 sets, for example, 10 sets a week, right? If someone says, yo, you should cut your intensity by like 70%, if you're living, if you're lifting like 10 pounds, right? And someone says, oh, you should cut your intensity by half, that just means use 5 pounds instead. That's basically all that, if you're ever confused about that. So like typically like one of the ways I'm not gonna go into this now. This video could be like an hour long. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. If I was boring, let me know. If there's other ways that can be improved, let me know. I am more than open. But yeah, thank you guys for stopping by.